Rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chief Height will turn the meeting over to you for a promotion recognition.
Thank you and good evening. During the August 23rd public meeting, the Board of Supervisors approved the promotion of 2 of our officers. Due to prior commitments, neither officer was able to attend that public meeting. However, today I would like to recognize Lieutenant Anthony Chimera and Corporal Matt Schallenberger on their recent promotions. Both are here today and we want to acknowledge them for this achievement. Lieutenant Anthony Chimera has 25 years of service to our community. He is now the commander of the 3rd Platoon within the Patrol Division. Corporal Matt Schallenberger is closing in on 18 years of service with our department. He recently completed comprehensive training in advanced accident investigation and will remain assigned to our specialized traffic unit. I would like to congratulate both these officers and thank them and their families for their service. So if we could recognize the 2 officers. We appreciate that.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Matt.
Congratulations. I couldn't figure out where the other crick was. Yeah, we'll figure out where the other crick was.
With that, we're going to have a little reception for them and their families, so if we could be excused, that would be awesome.
Thank you, Chief. You
Thank
sure
you.
can. Gentlemen, congratulations. Well done. Move on to public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications. Is there any public comment? Okay. Approval of the minutes from the October 11th regular meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from our October 11th meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
This is clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is approval of the bills. Any comments about the bills?
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
And I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
This is clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Move on to the 3rd quarter financial performance presentation. Our treasurer, Mark Zakshesky. Mark, it's all yours.
Thank you. Okay, in keeping with trying to keep everyone informed of how the township's doing financially, the 3rd quarter results are now available. Helps in technology. All right, in terms of revenue comparison, we're pretty much so on track relative to the budget. We're a little bit ahead on real estate taxes. We're a little bit behind on earned income tax, and everything else is pretty much so in line with the budget. We'll make up the earned income tax because there's a portion of this that doesn't get recognized until the end of the 4th quarter, where we roll the monies we withheld from prior years, earned income tax, into the collections for this year. So that'll be 100 and some odd thousand plus. So I'm not too worried about that. In comparison of this year to last year, we're pretty much so right on schedule. You know, you look at the charts; they're pretty much so. All the slices of the pie are pretty much all the same. We got a little bit of a reduction in the operating grants actually an increase, and that was due to the state aid. State aid, had been budgeted at around $1 million, and we ended up with 1.15 million. There's no way to really estimate that accurately because the state does some magical formula to figure out how much they're giving us to help with pensions. So that's, we're ahead on that one. In terms of comparison of expenses, we're actually a little bit better to budget on the public safety side of things, and everything else is pretty much so in line with the budget. If we compare this year to last year, once again, the expenses are all pretty close to the same year over year. We get to selected expenses. We look at admin salaries. The budget was roughly 570. We spent 536. There was a position in the budget that wasn't filled until August, and so therefore most of that accumulation is from that. Health insurance is running to the good, not as much as I'd like it, but it's still on the good side. Other benefits are running as well too. Those go somewhat hand in hand with the salaries. And legal so far has been under budget. That's a 7 or 8 month figure, not a 9-month figure, because the bills run about a month behind. When we look at planning, their salaries are running to the good. They had at least one position that was unfilled for a good portion of the year, and so therefore they're running to the good there. Their health insurance is a little bit underwater. Any one's big claim can throw that out when you've got a small pool, but overall the entire township's spend on healthcare is still positive. And their other benefits are running positive as well, once again going hand in hand with the salaries. Look at public safety. We've got a pretty good salaries variance, favorable for mostly the police department, but it's an aggregate. And that's partly because we've gotten reimbursed for a lot of overtime that helps keep it down, and there may be some PTO payments that we had budgeted that the people left earlier than we anticipated or decided to just burn off their PTO payments and not work. So we didn't have to pay, we paid them out one way or the other, but they get sort of buried in the salary that way. You can see their health insurance is running really well, almost $608,000. Big pool of people, so it helps and they got a little bit younger police force now, so that's helping. They should be less likely to be sick. Their other benefits are running favorable as well. The fire department contributions are favorable. There's always a little bit of a timing issue there. They get their LST money on a quarterly basis when they present the results, but their third quarter wouldn't be over in time for them to receive their reimbursement. So when we get to the end of the year, we end up with 2 sets of payments instead of just one, and everything catches up. Public Works, they're running slightly favorable to budget on salaries, almost $91,000. So they've been had people in and out throughout the year for people that left, and by the time we hire them, there's some gaps there. Their health insurance is running favorable, almost $132,000. The other benefits are running favorable, about 28, almost 29. Part of that is hunting season's coming up, and boot expense will go up in November, as it always does. Snow removal expense, we're somewhat under budget there. Part of that is due to the fact that we did not get as much state aid from the county for this year. The budget had 87,000, we got 61. And we have a good start to the salt season, because we should be pretty full. Public services, The salaries are running a little bit behind budget. That's because we agreed to allow them to raise their rates for the people that run the equipment at Millfair, and so therefore that was not budgeted. And then the operating costs are slightly under budget. I don't remember what exactly that was from. I think that maybe due to the fact that, no, because the actual's too high. I'll have to find out more on that one. Parks and Rec, their salaries are running behind, in part because the summer help got an increase, and also too, the way that the budget's calculated, it's presumes we're spreading the cost evenly over the year. Their salaries right now are really low for the parks programs. Their health insurance is running slightly favorable, and the other benefits are slightly unfavorable. That's also due to the salaries being over budget. The sewer revenue fund is pretty much still on track. Their actual revenue is slightly higher than budget. Their operating expenses are just a touch higher than budget, and the administrative expenses are slightly below. The reason they see a deficit for the budget is because there are a large degree of capital improvements, all of which we have not been able to undertake at this point. Wolf Road, Force Main was, I think, expected to be further along than it was. It's actually going to be a next year project, and so therefore the new budget will reflect those kinds of instances. As you can see, we got $7.6 million for revenue. In actuality, the budget was $7.4 million, and it was $7.4 million last year, so we're up a little bit year over year. Wages are favorable, about $40,000 or $35,000. Repairs and maintenance is a big plus this year. It's running about $70,000 less than last year, and utilities are $5,000 higher than budget. So that's where we get the deficit. We had estimated $1,855,000 for system improvements. We've only spent around about $500,000. So, but we have also not spent as much on machinery and equipment, most of which are vehicles. The capital plan, we had $10,741,000. We spent $4,187,000. We're to the good $6,554,000. That's because some projects like the Peninsula Trail, isn't going to happen this year. The design came in too late to award the bid. And there's a few other projects that just didn't happen. Questions? Being none?
Thank you, Mark. Move on to bids and quotes.
Sorry, pardon me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I just want to thank Mr. Zashewski for all of the work that he has done in keeping us in line in our budget and making sure that we are serving our residents by making sure that, we aren't overspending in different places and keeping us all on track. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to bids and quotations. The first item is armor for the Mill Creek Police Department. Mrs. Claire.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This first purchase is for the approval of ballistic vest from Uniform Outfitters for a total price of $1,479. The vest price is from a single source vendor for proprietary material. In addition, the vest will be reimbursed by the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency Coast Grant. On this note, if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, before I put this up for a vote, a few of the items today are actually from this Coast Grant. We have great news that our police department applied for a grant through the PCCD, which is the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. And the grant is actually for a social worker that we are going to have on staff here for 2 years. I think that this is going to be such an important part to our police department. And we are going to have this person available to go on call with our police officers. As many of us know, there are many mental health crises and issues, and a lot of the calls that are that we have our officers going on have to do with people that are in real mental health crisis. This is going to help our officers be able to help our residents that much more. I believe we are the first in the area to have something like this on staff. And we are really excited about this 2-year commitment. But that is what this first is for, so I'll put it up for a vote. I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of this for reimbursement.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item will be computers for the police department.
Yes, these computers are again through this Coast grant. They are going to be coming back through reimbursement. And there will be one Dell Optiplex 3000 desktop computer for $817. There will be 4 Apple iPads for a total of $1,264.80. 4 Apple Pencil styluses for $388. And this is under CoStar's contract number 003-25. The items are going to be purchased, if approved, through the government connection. All of the above items are at their CoStar prices. And in addition, these will be reimbursed, as I said before, through the PCCD Coast Grant. And I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item will be chairs for the dispatch center. Mrs. Clear?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. For the dispatch center, we have found that we were going through some of our chairs rather quickly. They are 24 hours. They're used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So the Mill Creek Township is actually looking to invest in chairs that are actually made for 24-hour use. This will be a cost savings over the next 5 to 7 years, as they do have warranties. The chairs will require a capital budget amendment. $3,521.05 will come from the Radar Capital, and then $1,481.57 are coming from range remediation. The CoStar's contract number is on the attached quote here. The approval of these 3 chairs for dispatch from the CR Solutions, Inc. is for a total price of $5,002.62. And again, these came out of 2 budget line items that had not been used.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Oh, I'm sorry. Second.
All right.
Sorry.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is a Wi-Fi access point for the police department.
The wireless access points will require a capital budget amendment. $1,029 is required from the remaining balance of the range remediation. The range remediation was not performed this year, so that is why there's extra money in there. The CoStar's contract number is on the attached quote. The approval of the purchase will be for 7 wireless access points from the Gov Connection for a total price of $1,029. I'll make a motion to approve the purchase.
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is telephone service for admin. Mark?
Yes, our carrier, Windstream, decided that they were getting out of the telephone business. Unfortunately, they didn't tell us that in advance that they were doing so. So we had to emergently find a carrier, and have selected VNet as a, this is actually going to be a retroactive approval, because we quickly needed to make a selection, make some decisions before they ported our number to somebody else. The 833-1111 number has been in the township for forever, I guess, pretty much, and didn't want to lose that. And besides which, anybody that tried to get a hold of the township over the last couple of days, I'm sure had money difficulties because we had no connection. So we're going to a true VoIP phone system. The cost is going to be $1,283.60 a month for a 36-month contract. We won't get any long-distance charges, which is unbelievable because we're still getting them through Windstream. And so we will end up saving a couple grand a month on phone service because we're not being charged for long distance anymore. Great. And it'd be my recommendation to retroactively approve the agreement with VNet.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion. Make a motion to approve the contract through VNet.
I'll second, Dan.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 9 on the agenda is a public hearing on land development plan for Collies Pools and Spas. Mr. Waldinger?
Yes, thank you. This is a land development plan to show the construction of a 4,000 square foot building addition with required parking spaces along the north line of West 26th Street, east of Homer Avenue in Tract 17. At their regular meeting of Tuesday, October 4th, 2022, the Mill Creek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this land development plan with the following requirements. One, that the planting strip along West 26th Street meet the minimum requirement of 10 feet. Two, that the parking area needs to meet the requirements of buffer C from the zoning ordinance. And three, that the side yard buffer on the east, that they show a side yard buffer on the east side of the property. I do want to report that subsequent to the Planning Commission meeting, the developer has submitted a new drawing that does address all three of those comments, and those were taken care of. Or I'm sorry, all three of those requirements. The Planning Commission also gave one general comment that they would strongly encourage the property owner to install some green space in the rear of the property.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Is there someone here to speak on behalf of Collies? You would come up to the podium, please, and state your name and address for the record, and we'll go ahead and open up the hearing.
My name is Adam Honey, and the address is 1557 West 26th Street, and that's the business address. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions or concerns you might have.
Were any arrangements made that you're aware of about the green space at the rear of the property, or?
I'd have to look into it. I'm not 100%
Okay.
sure.
All right. I know it wasn't a requirement, it was a, suggestion, but, okay. Any comments or questions from the board?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else from the audience wishing to speak on the Collies Pools and Spas land development plan? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the hearing. Is there a motion to approve this plan?
I'll make a motion to approve the Collies Pools plan.
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 10 is an amendment to the approved land development plan for the Hanlon Sports Complex. Mr. Waldinger?
Thank you. The developer, who is the Mill Creek Township School District, has submitted a non-substantial amendment to the approved land development plan to install a baseball field at the Hanlon Complex. The new plan shows the removal of a building that was previously proposed and includes an update to the stormwater management system. That update to the stormwater system was sent to our third-party reviewing engineers, Greenman Peterson Incorporated. GPI did review and states that it meets our stormwater ordinance. There's also a form in front of you right now signed by Township Engineer Ann Sokol, indicating that this modification does meet the requirements of a non-substantial amendment. So at this time, we would recommend that the board approve this non-substantial amendment to the David P. Hanlon Community Sports Complex.
Thank you, Matt. Any comments or questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like
Yes.
to make, sorry. I just wanted to make a comment about that. Having been a teacher at at McDowell High School, there were many games that had to be canceled, and our poor boys baseball team were not able to have any games there. It was really very sad for them because they were very passionate about baseball. So I am very, very happy to see that the district is doing this to, give what they can to the baseball department and team. So thank you.
Okay, next item is the Nomar Erie LLC. Matt?
Thank you. The developer, Nomar Erie LLC, is proposing to amend its previously approved land development plan. They would like to move the structure that was proposed further to the south of the property, or I'm sorry, further to the north of the property, and move the parking to the south in front of the building. There would be no change to the stormwater management requirements. In front of you is a form signed by Township Engineer Ann Sokol stating that it meets all the requirements for a non-substantial amendment. So at this time, we would recommend that the board approve the non-substantial amendment to the Nomar Erie LLC land development plan.
Thank you, Matt. Any comments or questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 11 is a new and amended ordinance is under review. Ordinance 2022-8, ordinance regarding sidewalks. Mr. Shaw.
Yes, as indicated at the last meeting, we are in the process of finalizing that ordinance to ensure that we have provisions that deal with snow removal and debris removal in a timely fashion. We should have that pulled together before the end of this week, and it'll be available hopefully on our website shortly thereafter, and will be up for the board's consideration at our next meeting.
Thank you. Next item is...
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to keep interrupting you. May I ask him a question?
Sure.
What are some of the highlights of that ordinance, or resolution, sorry?
Well, it's actually an ordinance amending the existing ordinance. It's actually going to be a restatement of the existing ordinance because we're pretty much or overhauling most of it. Part of this is a result of the ADA lawsuit that the township has just finished resolving and requiring additional requirements with respect to sidewalks and how they're maintained, and just making sure that our ordinance matches up with the settlement that we were able to arrange with the plaintiffs in that case. And then in addition, ensuring that we have the capability to promptly encourage or require snow removal and debris removal when those things are encountered.
So the resident is responsible for removing the snow and debris from their sidewalk.
Yes, and that's consistent with how the ordinance was
Okay.
before. We've just added some additional clarifying provisions to make it a little bit easier for us to enforce when we get those phone calls about, piles of snow, for instance, along 12th Street, and folks can't, get past the various sidewalks. It seems like some of the businesses on 12th Street at least think that the best place to pile up all their snow is the end of the sidewalk at the edge of their property. And that creates some issues, as you can imagine. So this will hopefully give us a little more, a few more tools in our enforcement belt to ensure that that doesn't happen, or at least if it does, that we can quickly respond to it.
One more question, Mr. Shaw. If the sidewalk is cracked or is not level, is it also the responsibility of the resident to fix that?
Yes, and again, that's consistent with how our ordinance was previously. We've made some clarifications to that to ensure that people fully understand that if you have sidewalks that are in a condition that is not compliant with the ADA, one instance being it's cracked that I believe is above 1/4 of an inch, then you need to repair that sidewalk. And again, oftentimes it comes up to us when there are complaints or problems that occur In addition, as part of our settlement, the township will be going through various areas within the township and looking at those issues and trying to get those corrected as part of our settlement. So,
Great. Thank you very much. I think it's good to explain it to the residents because they may not have time to read the every ordinance we've ever passed in their spare time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
that's my hobby. Come on.
No comment.
Item 12 is Resolution 2022-R47 regarding operational support activities for volunteer fire departments and the workers' compensation insurance. Mark?
Yes, the Commonwealth amended the Pennsylvania Workers' Compensation Act with the enactment of Act 108 of 2020. And it's allowing fire department volunteers to be engaged in certain operational support activities. Those activities include maintenance of the station and equipment, act as trustee for the department, organize fundraisers, provide information technology support, assist with the recruitment or other administrative tasks. It also, we're designating that it's the 4 fire departments serving the township: Val Valley, Kearsarge, Westlake, and Westridge, and that it covers this policy period from January 1, 2022 to December 31, 2022, and all subsequent policy periods. My guess is they're going to carve out a new code for volunteer fire departments. There's classifications within by the Workers' Compensation Act. For example, township employees are 985, and the police are 980. So that's where they stick a rate on at the Department of Labor and Industry. And my guess is they're going to separate out, because the exposure for a volunteer doing administrative tasks or cleaning up around the station or whatnot are different than the workers' compensation risks for people actually going out and fighting a fire. I don't know what impact it's going to have on our policy, but I know our carrier wants a resolution.
Okay.
They've been bugging me about it for a while. So it's my recommendation that we go ahead and approve the resolution so that we are compliant with Act 108 of 2020.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions for Mark on this? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Claire?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Resolution 2022-R48, resolution to authorize the submission of a grant application for the Peninsula Drive Multi-Use Trail Project. Mr. Waldinger.
Thank you. Yes, the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources has released a bonus round of funding under their Community Conservation Partnership Program grant funds, commonly known as C2P2. As you're aware, the cost to install the trail has ballooned lately, especially with inflation and construction costs. And one of the biggest costs of the trail installation is the construction of the retaining wall that's necessary to create the path. So we are going to submit a grant to DCNR, seeing as this path does connect two of their facilities, to ask them for some additional funding help to pay for those walls. The total cost of installing the walls is estimated at $2.6 million. We will be asking for a $1 million grant, meaning that the township would then pledge to pay $1.6 million in match towards that grant. So in front of you is Resolution 2022-R48, which is a required resolution by the department in order to apply for the grant. And also coming with the approval of the resolution would be the pledge from the township to provide the cash match that's necessary if we do get the grant. So I would recommend that the board approve this resolution so we can submit this grant application.
Thank you. Any comments for Matt on this resolution? Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the grant application.
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Claire?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 14 is a request for sale of a parcel from Erie County Repository for unsold properties. Mr. Waldinger?
Thank you. We were notified by the Tax Claim Bureau that they've received an offer to purchase a piece of property. It is on the old section of Glenwood Park Avenue. This section of Glenwood Park Avenue exists entirely within the city of Erie. It abuts Mill Creek Township. This section is also a section that is closed. It's north of Glen Ridge Road and goes down to Route 505. It is not currently open and passable. The county received a bid of $250 from Zip Enterprises LLC, which is a corporation from Sacramento, California. As this property is completely landlocked and completely undevelopable, and we imagine that this is being bid on the scene, it would be my recommendation that the board decline the sale from the repository, as it is an unusable piece of property, and I feel that it's just going to repeat this cycle of unpaid taxes and then coming back on to the repository. So that would be my recommendation, is to deny it.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Any comments or questions for Matt on this?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Did the county approve the sale of this parcel?
Sorry, give me a moment. I'm just
No, that's
looking.
okay.
It does not state, it just states that each of the taxing districts are being requested, but it does not state what the county or the school district did.
Okay.
Yeah, I do not see that here.
Is there a chance that the taxes could be paid on that if it's purchased by this property owner?
That's, correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Shaw, but that's not how the repository works. It's just a purchase and expunged.
Yeah, when a property is sold in the repository, that the past due taxes are wiped off, so it's cleaned. Whether a purchaser in the future would pay their taxes on it or not, I don't know. I suspect once they actually figure out where it is and that it has actually no use or access, I would suspect they would stop paying taxes just like the last owner. And then you would have, as Matt said, the recurring cycle of every 3 or 4 years it's going to end up back in the repository because they haven't paid their taxes. It gets through the whole tax sale process, ends up in the repository. So the only ones that make out at the end of the day is whoever gets the $250, not us.
Got it. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, is there a motion to deny the sale of the parcel?
I'll make a motion to deny the sale of the parcel.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Claire?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 15 is the 2023 Flexible Spending Account Plan Amendment. Mark Z.
Yes, the IRS has set the FSA account limits for 2023 to $3,050 from $2,850. Our plan currently limits flexible spending arrangements to the $2,850. It's my recommendation that we adopt the IRS recommendation of $3,050, and by doing so, we are amending our FSA plan accordingly.
Any comments or questions for Mark? Is there a motion to adopt the higher limit for the FSA plan?
I'll make a motion to adopt the higher limit for the FSA plan.
I'll second, Dan.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Claire?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 16 is Planning Commission Zoning Hearing Board appointments. Matt?
Sorry, microphone issue. Yes, thank you. This is just a notification to the general public that we do have at least one one opening in the Planning Commission as well as one in the Zoning Hearing Board coming up for next year. The township is looking for candidates who would be interested in serving on either the Planning Commission or the Zoning Hearing Board. If they do have an interest, they can reach out to the Planning and Development Department. They can go to the website and find my email address and reach out to me with a resume and a letter, and I can give them some more information on what it entails if they're interested. But we are seeking candidates that we could use to fill these positions.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Just because I do know that we have quite a few residents that watch our meeting minutes here. I actually know the answers to these questions, Matt, but I'm going to ask you anyway. That way the public knows. What is the obligation to the board members of the Zoning Hearing Board and the Planning Commission?
Yeah, they're similar in some ways and different in others. The similarities are typically, it's a time commitment for at least one meeting a month. The meetings are obviously at different days and times, but one meeting every month for each. We typically estimate that it would be maybe 2 or 3 hours of time outside of that meeting to go over the information that we send about each of the cases or applications that are in front of you, and so that you can review those and be prepared for the meetings. In general, what the Planning Commission does is review applications for subdivisions, land developments. They go over with the developer, they talk to them, ask any questions, and then they make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, who then makes the final decision. The Zoning Hearing Board is a little different. It is actually a quasi-judicial board. They hear appeals to the Township Zoning Ordinance. They handle appeals to enforcement actions, or if they have a disagreement with how a zoning matter is enforced. Those all go before the Zoning Hearing Board. The Zoning Hearing Board actually is a board that makes the actual decisions, and the only recourse to a decision of the Zoning Hearing Board would be to appeal that to a court of law. So those are the differences, but the similarities are, the time commitments, one meeting a month and a couple hours outside those to prepare.
Okay. Thank you very much. So it sounds like both of these boards really have the ability to serve our residents and what the landscape of Mill Creek Township will look like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's an honor to be able to help shape that, what Mill Creek will be. So yes, we encourage people to reach out to us if you are interested and need more information. Matt Waldinger definitely has the information. So thank you so much. We appreciate that. It's a very vital role here at the township.
Okay, we'll move on to item 17, Fire Commission recommendations. The first item is a recommendation to proceed with the suggested staffing concept. Attorney Shaw?
Yes, if you recall, there was a joint meeting between the Township Supervisors and the Fire Commission a few weeks ago, during which the Township proposed a staffing or submitted a staffing proposal for the fire departments and the Fire Commission to consider. At the most recent Fire Commission meeting, I think it was last Thursday, the Fire Commission recommended that the Township and the fire departments proceed with the Township's suggested staffing concept. Each of the four fire department chiefs were in favor of moving forward, and the Commission vote was unanimous. My recommendation then would be for the Board to adopt the recommendation of the Fire Commission and agree to continue to work with the Fire Commission and the fire departments towards implementing the Township's proposed staffing. Just as a reminder for folks that staffing included the fire department's hiring 6 to 8 full-time firemen to cover essentially the day shift and implement a part-time program to assist with off hours, as well as looking into a stipend program to encourage the volunteers to cover the balance of the hours.
Okay. That'll require action from the board. Attorney Shaw?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board on the first item? Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to recommend to proceed with suggested staffing concept.
Second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is a recommendation to reduce the volunteer staffing tax credit participation from 150 points to 75 points.
Yes, under this recommendation, currently under our ordinance, the participation points needed to qualify for the volunteer tax credit is at 150 points. However, since COVID hit, that number has been reduced from 150 to 75 in each of 2020 and 2021. So far for 2022, the board has not taken any action to reduce that for 2022. The fire departments are reporting that they're continuing to see the impact of COVID and are requesting again through the Fire Commission to maintain that reduced level of participation hours that the township has had agreed to in the past. Because it's set in ordinance, we would have to draft an ordinance to reduce it from 150 to 75 as we've done in the prior couple of years. The data that they had would appear to suggest that the number of calls remains significantly lower than pre-COVID, in part because one of the things that the Fire Commission recommended and the supervisors approved was to reduce the kinds of calls that the fire departments were responding to, mostly EMS type calls that were determined not to be absolutely necessary for them to participate in unless they actually got, specifically called out for that particular type of call. So the recommendation would be for the board to adopt the recommendation of the Fire Commission and direct the solicitor then to draft the necessary ordinance for the next meeting.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the recommendation as outlined by Attorney Shaw regarding the point system?
Yes, I'll make a motion for our solicitor to create that.
Dan, I had a quick question about, so that is on an annual basis, we're kind of evaluating the points, or you mentioned the year.
Yeah, the way the ordinance is currently drafted at 150. So
Okay.
the way we've done it each year was to say we're just going to reduce it to 75 for this year, and then it automatically reverts back to 150. So if you do nothing, it'll stay at 150. But in order to bring it back down to 75 again, you need to do an ordinance to do that.
When does it revert back? January 1st?
It would revert back.
Or
Well, it's effectively it reverts back for this year unless you take action, I think, before the end of the year.
okay, so we'll go back to 150.
It's 150 right now, based on how our ordinance is drafted.
Okay, all right, I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Quick follow-up, though, to Jim, Mr. Bach's question. So for 2023, it's going to be 150 again?
Yeah, in 2023, it would go back to 150 for that year, and whether, they continue to have issues with the calls or whether the call levels come back to where they were pre-COVID, that obviously remains to be seen.
Is it the appetite of the Fire Commission to permanently change to 75?
That issue's not been raised with them. I suspect they would, at least I know 4 of the members would probably be for it. The whole process is, the purpose of it is that the ordinance with respect to taxes, it gives the volunteers a property tax benefit if they hit a certain level. But it only applies for the township property tax portion. The state never made a modification to actually cover county and school districts, which, as we all know, probably make up 75% or 70% of the total taxes, real estate taxes that you may pay. So it's not a huge dollar amount at the end of the day, and then not all of our fire departments can take full advantage of it. I know there's one in particular that has a lot of volunteers that actually don't live in Mill Creek. They live outside of the jurisdiction, and the state has not come up with a mechanism to allow that either in terms of trying to give them some type of tax break. So, did that answer your question?
It does, yes. I actually tried to get this passed at the county level. And, of course, our Attorney Tellerico, that he explained, we were trying to go through the language, and it's only municipalities. So we actually tried to do it at a county level, but we failed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, no problem. Item 3 is agreement with Fast Attack for fire consulting services.
Yes, one of the suggestions made during the discussions with the Fire Commission and the fire departments was to retain a consultant to assist with the implementation of the township staffing plan. As you know, we've worked with Fast Attack on a couple of occasions regarding the fire departments, most recently when Fast Attack prepared the standard of cover report that was ultimately recommended by the Fire Commission and approved and adopted by the Board of Supervisors. Fast Attack is essentially Chief Nick Sahida is the person who does all the work and has been doing the work and been a great assistance to us, not only with the standard of cover, but even as just a general resource for questions and so forth. He's been very helpful and willing to work with us. Given that this would be a specific task, we've requested Chief Sahida to provide us with a proposal for implementing this staffing concept. His rate would be at $85 an hour, and his agreement would be capped at $7,500. The recommendation would be to hire Fast Attack to assist with this implementation.
Okay, any comments or questions from the board on the fire consultant?
I'll make a motion to, for the agreement with Fast Attack for the fire consulting services.
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Moving on to communications, Treasurer Communications, Mark.
Nothing further at this time.
Training and travel requests for the police department, Mrs. Clear?
Yes, authorization of 8 officers to attend the 2022 SafeNet Conference on Intimate Partner Violence to be held at the Ambassadors Conference Center on November 10th. The total cost would be $640 for course registration. And I'll make a motion to approve that 8 officers can attend the 2022 SafeNet Conference.
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Halloween trick-or-treat hours will be held on Halloween from 6 to 8 p.m.
Yay.
Executive sessions were held on October 13th and the 20th to discuss various issues. Moving on to solicitor communications. Attorney Shaw?
Yes. I did receive, the township received a letter on October 24th of 2022 from Roberta Waldinger advising that she was stepping down from the board of the Mill Creek Township General Authority. We have identified a replacement, Cheryl Miller, who's also a resident of Mill Creek, as a replacement for Robin Waldinger. It would be my recommendation that the board accept the resignation of Roberta Waldinger and appoint Cheryl Mitchell as her replacement.
Okay, is there a motion from the board to approve Cheryl Mitchell?
I would like to make a motion to approve Cheryl Mitchell to the Municipal Authority.
And accept Mrs. Waldinger's resignation.
And accept Ms. Waldinger's resignation.
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, moving on to citizens to be heard. Is there anyone here wishing to address the board this evening?
Hello, Patrick Martin, 4821 Woodbury Drive. Back at First Night Erie, I ran into Kim and I asked her, I said, I'd like to see about getting Bow Valley Park renamed for my father. I saw her out. She told me that you guys were working on it, and she was really happy, and we were going to have, I came to the last supervisors meeting, and I was told basically, this is something that's going to be for next year. I emailed Kim last night and said, look, I'm looking for information on what I need to do to make this happen. Kim sent me back an email that said, there's no money in the budget for it this year, we're going to work on it next year. I don't understand. So you had a budget meeting about it? Is that what you're telling me?
I think during our discussions, even when we first were talking about it, you have to understand that government works really, really slowly. So when we first talked about it, I brought it forth, and we all are willing to consider doing something like this. This is something for the spring for next year. Like, this isn't something that we have, that we can organize right now.
All I'm asking for is information on how to proceed. I'm not asking you to take a vote.
No.
I just want some information.
Go ahead.
Now,
Mr. Martin, Mr. Martin, if I may,
okay.
there is no real set procedure for naming, a park or a road or anything for an individual. I mean, you've made your request, you've given us your reasons for the request. That's sufficient. It's before the supervisors, and I think, as you've been told, the goal would be is to try to do something in April, and it's just figuring out the logistics of exactly what that's going to be. And that's all there is.
But, so in other words, to rename a park, I would have to get it on your agenda. You would just vote at it at a supervisors meeting and say yes or no, and then next year we would have something that would change the name.
I mean, you've submitted your request.
No, I haven't. I haven't submitted anything because nobody's telling me how to do it.
You're
Is
me.
there a formal paper?
No, there isn't.
Well, this is what I'm asking.
No, you have verbally told us you would like the township supervisors to consider it. Mrs. Clear has advised the other two supervisors that you've made that request, and it's under consideration. I mean, that's all you need. You've done everything you need to do.
Well, what's the monetary money coming into it?
Well, there's sign changes and there's things along that would have to be dealt with. And we need to figure out what exactly we're going to do in terms of how it's done and so forth. So that's, and at this point, given where we're at the end of the year, I think it makes more sense, or it made more sense, to deal with this in the spring. I would assume that sometime early next year, it'll be on the agenda and a vote will be made, and then we'll proceed to plan for it.
What you're telling me is I've made the request.
Yes.
So next spring, if I come in February, March, April.
I suspect the next step will be is at some point, someone will reach out to you and say, it's going to be on the agenda this week or next week or this date, and we're going to vote on the following.
How do I go about getting it on the agenda?
That's my job. And you've reached out to me.
Right.
So I'm working on your behalf.
And
So-
I'm still dumbfounded about, we've had a meeting and there's no money in the budget. I wasn't asking, all I wanted to know is, what forms do I fill out? And you just told me there's no forms.
There are no forms.
Well, nobody told me that. Nobody's answering a very simple question. So basically, there's nothing I can do until spring when you decide to put it on your agenda.
Yeah,
Correct.
there's nothing more for you to do at this point.
I guess I thought I told you that. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing you can do. But we have your request. It is with us. It's not a part of this year's plan.
It doesn't have to be a formal request. It doesn't have to be in writing. It doesn't.
You at the Bell Valley Fire Department talked to me, and I took that as a request.
Okay.
And so I took it very seriously and brought it to Mr. Olet and Mr. Bach, and so that we can consider it. So yes, yes, it's a very serious request that you gave me. It wasn't like will it happen?
Yeah, and there's no need at this point for you to put anything in writing. It just, we understand you've made the request, and it'll get dealt with accordingly.
All right. And do you have any idea in the spring when this might be? I mean, how long? When do you stop meetings for the winter, or do they go
No.
all?
No, we go all year.
And we have executive sessions every week, just about 52 weeks a year. So that's when we meet with our solicitor, et cetera. So yes, we will be meeting.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I
Anyone-
apologize if there was any miscommunication there.
Like I said, I just didn't understand. I wanted to know what.
You
the
need
next
to
step
do
was.
nothing.
So I need
You're
to-
good.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? Can you state your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Hello, I'm Chuck Felix, 2744 McKee Road. I came to make a request, I guess, to Mr. Allett, and also make a couple points. One, I was just looking to confirm the time of the meeting on your board, and one of the main things on the Mill Creek Township website, and it says the supervisors are charged with the safety and well-being and health of all the citizens. Doesn't talk about sending people here, buying this or buying that, talks about that. So I think this issue of the flooding on 28th and McKee should be a top priority because it is what you're charged with. So, but anyhow, my request, and I understand, as Ms. Clear said, about the wheels of government do at times turn slowly, and it may be months, it may be years before this is actually taken care of. But in the meantime, when we had this last event, 28th Street to the west of McKee flooded, car got stuck in there. The streets department set a guy up. Well, in short order, 28th Street to the east of McKee flooded. There's no one available to shut that down. And short order later, McKee Road itself flooded. And the problem with the flooding on the streets is vehicles go in through there 20, 30 miles an hour. And the water's already up to our garages and our houses. And they create wakes that pushes it up even further and into our houses. So I went over and told, I said, you got to stop people from going up and down McKee Road. They're flooding my house every time they drive up and down. And he ended up leaving he had parked blocking 28th Street heading west, which was the first place to flood. When he ended up went down to 26th and McKee and blocked that. But people were still.
Who was?
The guy from the streets department.
Streets department, okay.
He parked his truck with his light on so people couldn't go across 28th Street.
Okay.
But now McKee Road and the other side of 28th Street are flooded and there was nobody to do that. So what I'm requesting is that you come up with a plan during high rain intensity events to get either more people or horses or something to be able to shut that neighborhood down because one person is totally inadequate. And I ended up pulling my truck out to stop people from going because there just wasn't enough people there. Coming up with a plan shouldn't cost any money. It should help the safety and well-being of the residents, and it can be done in a week or two. It doesn't have to take months or years. So I'm requesting we come up with a plan to shut down the neighborhood during high water events.
We'll have Public Works address that. Thank you, Mr. Felix.
Mr. Felix, I would like to commend you for taking your own truck to block the traffic. Because I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes down to it, most of our residents are gimme, 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 and they're not looking out for each other. The fact that you took it upon yourself to block it off for your neighbors, that's what community looks like. That's what we should be doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board?
Dennis McAndrew, 1547 High Street. They were talking about the flooding and stuff, but something along similar lines. I talked to you guys, Jim, actually, over the weekend. is blowing leaves in the ditches, or people, think they're doing the right thing, like putting leaves in black plastic bags. And I see a lot of the numbers in the budgets and things, but, we just paid how much more on garbage and stuff because of the tonnage and cost. I think some people think they're doing the right thing, and they're not. I saw some neighbors that, I don't know where they got them from, these brown paper recyclable leaf bags. They got taken as garbage. People putting leaves in black plastic bags, that got taken as garbage. There's your tonnage fees. There's some added cost. People just simply not picking them up and blowing them into the ditches or down to the storm drains. That's added cost. That's maybe potentially jamming up pipes and causing flooding. I mean, there's a lot of residents trying to do the right thing. I think some residents don't realize what they're doing is impacting others. Just want maybe you guys could, they had a thing on the Erie News about the city reminding people, hey, don't put all your leaves out on the curb in the road, put them in hard containers and we'll pick them up. Melker Township, I know on the calendars list what to do. I've had neighbors flat out tell me, oh, I just throw it away, I don't even look at it. Or I don't read it. So maybe you guys could have a little.
After I talked to you, Dennis, I did talk to our recycling coordinator and our communications coordinator, and they were going to formulate a friendly reminder, shall we say, a public service announcement, a PSA about the proper way to dispose of leaves.
Yeah, I mean, I have across from my house some condominiums, and they pay a professional to come in and they blow leaves and they pick them all up and they suck them all up, and that's all well and good, but not all the neighbors are nice enough to pick them up. And, I've seen some that blatantly just blow them right into the ditch. And it's like, really? Come on. And I think some people think they're doing it, like, I don't know where these brown, big, it says, leaf thing, but they got taken as garbage. And I've seen lots of people put them in the big black bags, and not just a few, a lot. And it's like, they put them out all the time, and I know it's a constant battle with leaves, but I mean, you have what, 4 leaf pickups, I think?
Sounds right.
It sounds right.
4 or 5.
Yeah, and I don't think like I said, I don't think there's any malice. I just don't think people are seeing the big picture. So, I appreciate
sir.
that. Thank you.
No
Thank you,
problem.
Dennis.
Thank you.
Mr. Bear?
Oh, off the record stuff, huh, Gary?
All right. Yeah, would you come up to the podium? State your name and address for the record.
Gary Bear, 4045 Five-Year Drive. This last pickup, I put out a couple of bags in the required clear.
So did I.
The trash guy throws it in. It's not worth their time to pick up the second truck to come through, evidently. So they put it in the trash. They've done that forever. And the first pickup, because it's so small and it's only 2 bags. Now I have, for the last couple of days, picking up, because we have a pile of trees, which is wonderful. And I'll have 20 bags, 21 bags. So the next pickup, I think it's next week, they'll pick that up. So it might be just the fact that it's not worth the truck and that's a small weight, that's their judgment call, and that's fine with me. But I don't think people, at least in our neighborhood, aren't doing that on purpose. And there's also a requirement that if you have so much grass included in that, if you use your lawnmower and it's an older lawnmower and it chops up the leaves, but it also brings up all the grass for recycling, they don't want, and it's even in this recycling calendar in ordinances, it says that you can't have a lot of weed or grass. Yeah, it has to be in the black bag. So they may have that. So, it's a hard call to make.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't think it was anyone doing it on purpose or anything.
But just saying, here's what's happening. The other thing I have is this ADA on the requirements on the sidewalks. and with this extra trail going down to Presque Isle, and the Presque Isle, Carl Boyes' trail, which is a multi-purpose trail. And when you walk on that, you can't ride a bicycle on it safely, because it's so distorted, so full of holes, so full of tree roots. Is that part of our liability, and will that be part of our liability for this extra trail that goes down behind? Because isn't that part of that agreement? You have responsibility to make sure people do the right thing and follow the ordinance. Is that making the state do it, or do we have that right or not?
The trail that's on Presque Isle is the responsibility of DCNR and the state. It's not the township's responsibility.
Not part of this, so this new feature that's
And
being added-
this new feature, as I understand it, I believe the plan is that the state will do the day-to-day type maintenance, so they would do snow clearing and things like that. But I believe the walkway would be the responsibility of the township. So, for instance, if it starts to deteriorate, those would be things that the township would need to repair. But the kind of day-to-day maintenance of ensuring the, leaves are swept off, or that debris is kept off of the trail, or snow is removed, DCNR is going to take that responsibility, because they already do that on their trail.
Yes, they do, but they don't take care of the defects on the.
Believe me, I ride my bike out there quite often, I understand, and they've had red circles around all the potholes
Yeah,
on the
well,
trail.
They didn't put red over it. First time they put some white and
Right.
yellow, and the color code is okay.
Yeah,
but,
keeps you on your toes.
It's dangerous, and I've seen a lot of people have trouble, especially people with handicaps and people with strokes who are, listen, there's one person that, there's a fellow birder who, a wonderful guy, but he has trouble walking, and that trail is, or not trail, but the path, Carl Boyes' path, is very unstable, and it's likely he will fall. So people help guide him and others through the things, and I was wondering if that becomes our liability.
No, that's the state's liability, and it is remaining the state's liability. So our ADA suit did not involve that
Good.
at all.
But it will stick us with the extra trail we're putting in.
Yeah, because we're, under PennDOT's rules, we're in PennDOT's right-of-way. When we install a sidewalk, under our ordinance, it's the adjoining property owners that have kind of responsibility. In this case, I believe, like I said, for the day-to-day kind of maintenance type stuff, DCNR is willing to assume, but we would ultimately, either the township could go to the adjoining property owner to make any types of repairs.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, meeting's adjourned at 6:45.